We know in a world where data is the #1 currency, safety is imperative. Now, our next keynote speaker is passionate about preparing the business for the future in the ever-changing marketing ecosystem and is in charge of leading the delivery of all the services that are at the intersection of data, technology, and content. To provide his insights on the relevance of blockchain, please welcome Chief Development Officer of Mindshare AMEA Global Client Lead WPP TeamPepsiCo, Mr. Gowthaman Ragothaman.
Hi. Good afternoon. 3 more sessions to go before the day ends. It's going to be good fun. Thank you. Charts, please. Right, so I'm going to talk about fake, fraud, and frenemies, and what can blockchain do to solve this problem. You know, typically, almost all the industries have something to do with fake and fraud, and probably our industry is the only one which has got the third element of frenemies in it. And our industry has fake news, we all know about it, and the impact of that in our business. I think some of us talked about it earlier. There is ad fraud, where impressions are not seen properly or manipulated. And the one, frenemies are the third one, which is complicating our businesses a lot better because we know about the gardens we are engaging with at this point of time. And all three of them impact our business pretty significantly. If you look at fake news, more than 9 million impressions are linked towards fake impressions in the US elections. If you look at ad fraud, almost half the business, more than 39 to 40% of the impression that is going on in the marketplace are frauds, which is not through human interactions, but through bots or other machine clickbaits. Third is the most important one in our business, where we continue to talk about consumer journey, right? I mean, everybody love to have the consumer journey fully mapped, but in reality, our industry is still struggling to map the consumer journey. It's broken. We don't have to fix it because there is a search journey, there is a social journey, there is a set of other journeys, but nobody has the full view of the consumer. So all these three things are impacting our business pretty significantly. So I'm going to talk about how blockchain is going to solve these problems across fake, fraud, and frenemies. Just to bring it to context, for the purpose of this meeting, I'm just going to keep it as blockchain as 5 key elements that all of us should keep in mind with. I'm not going to talk about Bitcoin. For those who are curious to know if I'm going to sell Bitcoins today, it's not going to be the case. To me, the blockchain is about 5 things that we should keep in mind. And in the next 15 minutes, I'm going to spend about these 5 elements. One is the database itself and how this database translates into a ledger, the second point, and how this ledger is cryptographically secured without any tampering, third point, and how through consensus, because nobody owns the database in one particular form, how through distributed consensus this database is being maintained in a particular platform, which is the fifth one. So when somebody comes and talks to you about blockchain, ask them these 5 questions. Where is the data? What's the ledger? What's the cryptography? What's the consensus? And what platform they're going to use? If you get these 5 things right, probably you'll be able to answer the impact of blockchain in our business. The reason why we are talking about this is throughout the day, we talked about a lot of discussions, right? If you assemble these things into 3 big challenges. One is the way the marketer wants or expects from a campaign is about reach, engagement, delivery, verification, return on investment. Look at the other side of the spectrum. The consumer, what he wants is quick and inexpensive access of content, cheap and cheerful, and ensure that his messaging is relevant to him and he is not being spied on in this new world of data and privacy norms. Between these two are the platforms, whether it is Facebook or Google or any one of the publishers today who are getting into the OTT space. All that they want is a fair exchange of value and how rapidly they can convert those impressions into businesses so that they can generate more content to increase the user base. The problem we have today is these three constituents have asymmetric expectations in the marketplace, and that's why we are getting a situation of fake, fraud, and the frenemies today. So I have to start with databases first. Most of us lived through, some of us here who lived through 1970s to 2000, remember Y2K, but we are living in a world of databases where it's about real-time applications, what we call as Web 3.0. Real-time applications has multiple data sets flowing in different databases and different streams. The reality is, because of this, is more than 2/3 of the information we have today, we do not own. That's the biggest challenge today. Earlier, marketers or any one of us used to have our own servers and we have our own databases, we maintain it ourselves. But today in the world where we're living with location-based data, occasion data, or various other data sets, more than 2/3 of the information is not with us. That gives us a very unique challenge because the database is distributed throughout the world and not with one particular individual. So that leads to a lot of problems in the business today. While we try to assemble different data streams, the biggest challenge is, as you see on the left side of the scene, is if we try to assemble all this information into one place, it's about different taxonomy, multiple infrastructures, it's into different languages and different contexts. We're spending a hell of a lot of time and money in assembling these databases into one particular form for us to easily access. And that's the biggest challenge today when it comes to distributed databases. So what we are going to talk about in the blockchain point of view is not about Bitcoin, and it's not even blockchain. What's important for our business is about what we call as distributed ledger technology, and not even blockchain. So from a world where there is information available assembled across multiple people, we are looking at a distributed ledger which has got a similar technology like blockchain. And that's what is going to solve the problem of fake, fraud, and frenemies. And we'll talk about it in a minute quickly. If you look at any business today, the amount of inefficiency that is existing is pretty explosive. If you take a standard industry, between the manufacturer, the raw material suppliers, the bank records, the insurance records, the regulators, and the auditors, we are already having at least 6 different ledgers that's being maintained today. And not one, it doesn't sit in one place, it's sitting in different locations and different companies. And it's becoming an expensive and a vulnerable ecosystem for maintaining it. A very close similarity to this is our business in the area of programmatic. We do have similar ledgers. We don't have it in a similar place. Advertising agency maintains their own records. The trading desks have their own records. You have DMP, which maintains another record separately. Ad exchange maintains another record. And a DMP and a publisher maintains another record. As such, for a simple programmatic value chain, at least we have 6 different databases maintaining the business. And if you look at our entire business of offerings today, this is the way it's as complicated as it is. Every time we add a layer in our programmatic value chain, think of adding another ledger. So some people were talking some time back earlier. At any stage in our programmatic value chain, we are talking about 17 to 20 different records that's being maintained across the ecosystem. And that leads to fraud because people tamper it. People manipulate the databases. We still don't know the entire journey very well together. And that's the complication that's going on in the marketplace today. If there is a situation where, like this, when everybody maintains the same database in a ledger form, there is option and there's an opportunity where information cannot be tampered with, and that leads to less and less fraud. So I'm coming back to this. I'm keeping this an anchor point. 5 things to keep in mind: database, ledger, cryptography, consensus, and a platform. So I'll quickly run to what it means to us in our business today. A ledger is a place where, through consensus, everybody sees the same database. A DMP, a DSP, an SSP, an agency, and a publisher all see the same information stored in a particular place. So a year back, IAB in New York wanted to explore whether a distributed ledger technology can be used to mitigate fraud or fake news. So what they did is they almost mandated for every programmatic value chain to have something called as ads.text that needs to be plugged into your code. What it means is that if it is mentioned there, it is being considered as non-fraud or non-fake information. So you're able to track that the information and the impressions is secure. But what happened on the back of this is it only helped us to weed away fraudulent impressions, but it still did not give us enough consensus to ensure to see that the information is secure and protected on an ongoing basis. So this is a sample chart we put together to say that if you really want to evaluate whether a blockchain is required for your business or not, just look at the number of S's in the screen. Are there multiple partners in the ecosystem? The answer is yes in our business. Do multiple partners amend the data? Yes, they do amend the information. How many third parties are there to agree to trust? There is many. And how many multiple parties need to update and share the data? There is many. And if you continue to answer these questions, and you will realize that unless and until there is a shared consensus in the industry, we will not be able to address this issue of fake, fraud, and frenemies. So that leads to the next stage of the blockchain system, which is what popularly now being called as smart contracting. Smart contracting is a kind of a program that ensures that when in the ledger, which everybody sees it at the same time, an activity happens, it automatically triggers for payment. You don't need to have somebody to sit and reconcile particular information. So cryptography is now already being introduced into a system. Quite a few companies are now coming up with smart contract algorithms to ensure that you don't have to reconcile 6 or 7 or 8 or 9 different ledgers to transform or amend or reconcile a billing and equation system. So the fourth point in the entire ecosystem, in the blockchain technology is about consensus. It essentially means that in the value chain I talked about in the programmatic thing, the advertiser, the agency, the DMP, the DSP, and the SSP all will say, yes, this is indeed true. Only when 6 of them say yes, we consider that impression to be verified true and not fake or fraud. So there are different methods that's being followed to ensure that this kind of a protocol comes into picture. I know it is slightly a heavy topic at this point of time, but quite a few companies are already setting it up as a platform where consortiums are being formed, like I've shown here. 6 different ledgers, everybody agrees to see the same information in one particular way, everybody says yes, and then the ad is being seen as a truly viewable ad. So today in the industry, many companies have come up to solve this problem. There are Ethereum, Hyperledger, BigChain, OpenChain, Zilliqa are all the companies that is developing this blockchain platform. And on the back of that, there are many companies like NASDAQ. They are setting up a blockchain infrastructure for stock trading. DigiCert, and the triangle there is called as BAT, that is Basic Attention Token. These companies are now trying to build a network on top of it to ensure that companies come together. And not but not the least, Citibank, Microsoft, Accenture, IBM, they're all building applications on top of this. So I want you to think about these 5 things, and a protocol and a network and applications. That's how the world is moving when it comes to the blockchain technology. The problem we have is, as such, there are 30 companies trying to solve our problem in terms of fraud, fake, and frenemies through blockchain solutions. There are at least 10 of them focusing more on display and programmatic. There are 5 companies on basic attention. There are 6 companies on payment, billing, and reconciliation. So this place is already getting crowded. And unlike the earlier Lumascape of companies, we now have 30 more companies trying to come and solve this problem using the blockchain technology across fake, fraud, and frenemies. As an industry, we have a group of people across Asia Pacific and across the world trying to assemble these things to generate some use cases. We believe there are at least 6 unique use cases that's being built right now. At one end, this technology is being now used to clear and clean up the supply chain management and reconciliation as billing. which is likely to give us more efficiency in terms of managing the business. One would expect that instead of creating 6 different databases, you can use this technology to have one unique database to ensure that everybody sees the same picture. There are also other opportunities in the area of being effective in your communications through data management and identity protocols, because on the back of GDPR, where every individual's identity needs to be protected, there are opportunities where this technology can be used through the ledger to anonymize individuals and just take care of what they do online instead of who they are online. So there are a lot of companies that is trying to create identity management through the blockchain protocol. Equally, towards the end of this side is content authenticity and asset provenance and tracking, where people are now using this to check whether the digital assets were sourced properly or delivering properly or not. 6 different use cases, and one would expect that by the end of this year and the beginning of next year, we should at least have 4 or 5 cases that is going to help us address these things. So I'm an optimist. I genuinely believe that this technology, as distributed ledger technology, can definitely help us solve some of the problems on fake, fraud, and frenemies through these 6 potential use cases. Last but not the least, I'm going to use the last 2 minutes to talk something more about what we are doing in Asia Pacific. Before I go there, I missed this chart. There are companies that are using this technology to create audience segments. Comcast is the first company, and I think now we have AT&T and many other OTT players are now using this technology to aggregate user information. Like they have a consortium across Comcast, NBC, and Disney using their subscription information to create audience segments so that you can use this particular segment using the technology for targeting purposes. So what we are doing in Asia right now is a partnership with one of the platforms called Zilliqa. We are now trying to create a prototype with one DSP, one SSP, and one viewability partner to check whether this technology can indeed be used or not. So we just announced this last month, that along with MediaMath, Rubicon, Integral Ad Science, and a publisher partner, we have agreed with 3 or 4 of them. And we have 4 clients who are now willing to come to do the pilot. We want to check whether this technology can be used across this value chain so that we can use this technology to evaluate and clear reconciliation, billing, and identity to create a minimum viable product. Just like this project Proton, as of now, there are 5 other projects that's running across the world. One for L'Oreal, one for Nestle, one for Vodafone. I just heard an article yesterday about Toyota using the same technology for reconciliation and billing. So this is just beginning. I hope by the end of next year, when we again talk about this in the next MMA Forum, we will have much more use cases with specific benefits of this technology that can be used for our industry. Thank you.
Thank you very much once again, Mr. Ragothaman. I would like to request for you to stay right there, sir. There you go. Yes. So sorry. Okay, I would like to run, but I'm on heels. Okay, do you want to stay right there or just right here? Right here? That would be fine as well. All right, so once again, we'd like to thank you for all your time, all the knowledge you shared today, and this is a token of appreciation on behalf of MMA and, of course, all of the attendees right here. Can we have a round of applause for Mr. Ragothaman once again, ladies and gentlemen?
Thank you.
Thank you. Once again, a big round of applause for Mr. Ragothaman. Thank you very much.